Remember back in the day? What was it? I would die for you. Anyway, I'm dating myself. Good morning, guys. Good morning. It is 6:33. It is November 20th. We are post Nvidia. We have futures up 60, 70 handles. Decent report, good guidance. Maybe it's going to help, give us a push to then get things trading better into the, Christmas time or not. We'll see. I know there's a lot of keys to the day. So what does Red Dog do? Red Dog tries to give you ways to frame the trade, ways to think about things. If this happens, then that happens, et cetera, et cetera. I've read a few reports from like Ed Yordeni and a few of these guys talking about how we're going to peak mid-December. The markets are going to peak mid-December. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Peak mid-December, because we already peaked 3 weeks ago. The S&P is 4% off the highs. NASDAQ's 5% off the highs. So what does that mean? That means you think that we put a low in this week and that we're going to make new highs through December. Let's frame trades here. These research guys, these guys that talk on TV, they had no freaking value. All right. How do you navigate? How do you frame your trade? What do you look at the day? And how are you going to make money? So a few things that I'm going to look at today to see whether or not today's market sticks or fades. I'm going to use my sell rules and I'm going to use keys to the day. So first things first, SPYs right now are up 7. Okay. So right now we are back above the 50-day. 50 days right here, right around 667. We're coming into 670. So we're kind of in no man's land. That's kind of like the 8-day right there. So do we open up, pull in a little bit and hold a big portion of today's gap to give us some power to trade against through the rest of the week, through Thanksgiving holiday, into Christmas? Is that the case? Or do we open up, hold above 667 for a little while, and then all of a sudden fade? I kind of feel like we're going to hold up because we're that oversold. So as long as we hold the 50-day, then you have your next area of resistance, which is 675-ish. So that's the SPYs. The Qs, very similar thought. The Qs are opening above 606, which is yesterday's high, right? Above it. So do we hold above the 50-day? Do we stay there? Do most names hold the early gains, hold these gaps, and push? If so, hey, maybe we have a gap to trade against to put swing longs back on for better traction in the weeks ahead versus everyone talking out of their you-know-what. Because I'm getting sick and tired of people talking out of their you-know-what and adding no value to anybody who tries to make cash flow and trade for a living. Anyway, there's a lot of accounts out there. So anyways, so do the Qs which are opening above hold or not? The Qs are up 9 points. It's a big move. So if you took some options, if you took some things into Nvidia's report, you deserve to get paid. Obviously, if you have longer term money, that's a different story. Like I went home yesterday, my wife's like, "Oh, the market's 4% off highs, da da da." How are our accounts doing? I'm like, doesn't really matter, Selena. I'm 53, you're 49. Just keep putting money in your 403b, every month, and then it'll be fine. She's like, well, what about the blood in the street account? I'm like, well, we're not down enough yet. She's like, how's trading going? I'm like, it's been a tough month. Anyway, let's have dinner and not talk about how's your job going. But anyway, with that being said, do the Qs hold above 606 to see 613-ish? This is kind of like your playground. So that's that. That's the indices. So now let's go to Nvidia. So I was here with the Wolf yesterday, Wolf Pack from the virtual trading floor. We actually traded Nvidia pretty well. So you had your first move, took out 191. We were buying 191s, and then I'm like, you could probably get to 199, on this report. This is 204, that's 212. So Nvidia is going to be very important to see if the early strength holds or not. So right now, Nvidia is opening pretty much not that exciting. It's up 9 points. It's up 5%. I kind of think the report was enough for them not to just sell the news, because again, Nvidia is not, what didn't go out at 212, at 204 went down in the lower end of the range. So I would think if Nvidia is going to be any good and they try and pull it in, it should hold, 190, 191. If Nvidia pulls in and doesn't hold 190, 191 and continues lower, chances are the SPYs aren't going to hold that spot, the Qs aren't going to hold that spot, market's going to fade, and the bears are going to friggin' growl. And then people who fade the market are probably going to make more money than people who are buying. So anyway, so we'll see. Does Nvidia hold and push back towards 199-ish? And then do we have a gap here? And it's still just in the middle of this range between 212 and 179. So at least there might be some tradable action after the open, which is all we want. Structured tradable action. Anyway, let me say hello to some of my guys. What's up, GP? What's up, Tony? Good morning, JJ tweeting. What's up, Jack Reed? What up, Golden Sunlight? How's everybody doing? We got Tim in the house. We got Ashish in the house. So Nvidia, does Nvidia hold 191 or 190-ish? That's the key. Does the SPYs and the Qs hold above yesterday's highs? That's the key. If it doesn't and we fade, just expect a lot of choppiness. Some people are asking about Tesla. What do I think about Tesla? I think it looks all right. I'm in some Tesla. I'm in some Tesla calls. I've traded that after hours. Not so bad. Elon's everywhere. Elon's at the White House. Elon's meeting with Saudi Arabia. Elon's with ginseng. You would think if something could start to get a little better traction, maybe Tesla. So today, the question is, can Tesla get above and stay above? This was 409. This is 412. Can it do it? Can it do it? Not just get above, push, and fail, because that's what it's been doing. You're still in this big time accumulation pattern. It's been very, very sloppy, but it didn't go back to the low. So it showed a little relative strength. So we'll see, does the early morning gains in Tesla hold? If so, this is the gap that it went to earlier in the week. Remember, when as high as 421 to 423. So we'll see, does it get better? The question is, can you buy anything in the first half an hour that's going to be higher in the last half an hour? That's what you have to think about. Anyway, do I think Bitcoin is turning around? You know what? Bitcoin went below 90 again. It's back above 90. You could be long versus side. Yesterday, Bitcoin kind of gave some clues that we were going to fade. I know I was long a little IBIT, and it felt like the market wanted to rally, but Ethereum and Bitcoin were weaker. So that gave you some clues that maybe we wouldn't hold. And then that was a drag. Right now, Bitcoin is kind of hanging in there a little bit better. So maybe that was the washout. So if you want to see Bitcoin, I could do that with you guys. Bitcoin's trying. Bitcoin's been in a bear market. Bitcoin hasn't been great at all. Bitcoin's back above. So, again, if you look at Bitcoin, it's doing a whole lot of, it's grasping. It's grasping. That's all Bitcoin's doing, is grasping. If this was any kind of tech stock, no one would be in it. But everyone gives Bitcoin the benefit of the doubt that all of a sudden they're going to catch everyone off sides. Here you had your breakout failure. Here broke down to 103, got rejected into 117, broke all the moving averages at 110. And from here is where I stopped really playing it. I thought we were going to get some kind of turkey trot. We had made good money here, into Thanksgiving, and it just didn't happen. So I lost money. It happens. You lose money trying things in the market. So now, can you be long versus, what's this? This is 88.4. So this is your low. It's a point of reference. It's all it is a point of reference. So maybe this was it. Maybe Tom Lee is right. I don't know. All I know is Tom Lee said that, that we're going to bottom this week in Ethereum and Bitcoin. Obviously, he's saying that because he's been talking about how you need to be a buyer of BMNR from 60 down to 30. Anyway, just don't buy things because somebody's got fancy hair and is an uber bull on TV. Frame the trade, figure out the risk, figure out why you're in it, figure out the setup. If you look at BMNR, it's been horrendous. Look at that. Right here is when BMNR said it's over at 49. It's been below the moving averages since. Anyway, that it's traded technically, and don't get a false sense of security in anything that you do, trust your technicals, trust your system, not those people who speak on TV. But anyway, so with that being said, do I think Elon is going to bring Starlink public next year? Maybe. Hey, Amazon's been terrible. You're right. Let's go. Look at Amazon. This has been horrible. But you had a way to get out of it. Right here in this candle, where you had this upper wedge, it was looking like maybe you could take out the highs. Guess what this candle said? Amazon's terrible. Did you listen to that candle? Did you get out of the way? I got out of my stock. I bought options a few times. It didn't work, but I did buy some more options yesterday. I held it 200 days, so that'll help me today. Amazon, has been horrible. It just, but again, technically, if you look at it and you're not wearing Amazon rose-colored glasses, this candle right here was the candle that said, hey, it's not special. That was at 243. If you got out of 243, you weren't sucking wind going below 222. So it happens. ONDS, listen, Scott, I like Tom Lee just for the fact that I'd rather listen to Uber Bulls than Uber Bears because over the long term, the bull market will win. Over the long term, if you put money in a 401k every single month, chances are you're going to have a great average cost and you're going to build wealth and you're going to send your kids to college without asking for handouts. The bears that say this isn't going to end well, usually that only goes on for like 3 months or it goes on for like a 9-month period, and all those periods help your average cost. So I'd rather have a lot of more Uber Bulls out there that say, hey, if you're 30 years old, put money in every single month. If you're 40 years old, put money every single month. I was out with 2 guys yesterday that are 35 that try and time the market and make money for a living. I'm like, guys, you can't just actively trade for cash flow. I'm like, you have to have a 401k. You have to have a Roth IRA. You have to put money away every single year. That's how you're going to build your wealth. And if you want to trade for a living, that's different. You get paid monthly and quarterly, and that's what that's what you live off of. But anyway, with that being said, somebody's asking, what about like Oklo and these names? Oklo tried to perk up yesterday. There was some news that that we're continuing to go nuclear. If you sold Oklo here with the red dog reversal top, the lower high, another lower high, perhaps this is going to give you all these trades are not going back to highs. They're just bouncy type trades. So now maybe Oklo could work towards 113. Some people who are in like NVTS that to go with Nvidia, this had a huge move. All these things look the same. Like this hit its high of 17 down to 8. So how'd you do there? Did you sell into some strength? Did you get out of the lower high here? So now maybe this could see 955. So a lot of these super growth names, all they're going to do is have some kind of bounce type trades. And then NBIS was pretty good. I know that the what's it called? Dave Prince from the Inner Circle. Who was all over buying the dip here. He did great. He bought it into the gap. So maybe there's room to 102 to 104. Whereas NBIS this morning, it's up 6, so it's right there. So if you got out on this outside day, you're able to buy down here, and now maybe into 102, you sell some. So the question is framing the trade. Where's the easy trade? Where's the tougher trade? How do you get involved? What do you want to play with? Like right now, even Amazon. So someone's like, where do I think Amazon could bounce to? It's been a piece of junk. Well, it's up 4, so that's kind of good this morning. So you map out areas where it can go. So this is the moving average. This is 2. So and then this is, I would say, Amazon can get from to 229, 232 and still be a piece of junk stock, which it's been. So if you're trading a bounce, you better make sure that where it is, where this is this is going to be a pretty big resistance zone that it could bounce towards, from here to there, and it's still so far off the highs. Google's been a little bit better, but Google's been tough too. Google opened above 292 and failed and then filled the gap. Then yesterday got above 293.95, went as high as 303 and then failed to hold that and came in $10. I lost money buying a dip in Google yesterday. I'm going to be honest, I did. And it came all the way in and looked when the market was going to fail. ASTS is also just like everything else. If you look yesterday, I said we can get to where? Maybe 62, after a red dog reversal and a reclaimed 56. So, it's got some room to 65-ish. If you got out here when you had a red dog reversal high, or you got out here when it broke the moving averages, you have the luxury of testing lower levels. That's why you have sell rules. That's why you use moving averages. That's why you have a tier system. You don't just hold your nose and go underwater. Anyway, I think Hood's kind of in the game. Hood was a go-to name also. Perked up a little bit yesterday. My buddy Mark Sperling, who's out there trading. He actually came up yesterday. He's like, I'm buying Hood. So if you bought Hood yesterday, you probably are making money up to 122. Where's 122 on Hood? HOOD. It's right there. So again, you almost had to be long into it. So if it gets through there, you map out the next level, which is right here, right? So this is resistance 1, resistance 2. How do we hold up today? Netflix was really horrible yesterday, to be honest. I didn't play Netflix on this day, where I was like, wow, I'm like, Netflix just engulfed this entire range. Netflix is pre-split, is post-split. It looks much better, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden that happened. So I bought some options into this just in case for December 5th, not for next week, for December 5th, giving myself enough time into support just in case they're not involved in the Warner Brothers deal and it acts better, blah, blah, blah. So otherwise, but trading that, it's hard. That just like shows the epitome of how hard it's been. You have a nice bullish engulfing candle that looks like it's taking back the moving averages, then it opens down $1.50 and goes down all day. Anyway, so with all this said, will this be the start of the bull run through Thanksgiving into Christmas, which is what Ed Yardeni and all these guys are saying? Okay, if that's the case, then a few things need to happen today. And we'll see. Will the SPYs hold a big portion of today's gap or fade? Will it hold above this 667 and work towards 675-ish? Will the Qs get above 606 and stay above 606, give you a big, nice gap? Like, remember this gap here? Where was that gap? That gap was, but it got filled. Anyway, maybe it was like this gap, but does it happen over here? Does Nvidia, which is the reason why everything's up, does it hold the majority of today's move? Can it stay above 191? Right now, Nvidia is, where's Nvidia? Nvidia is up 9 at 195. So the measured move or the option guys are pricing in, they were pricing in 199. So there's some room here. Does it open up 9 and close only up 4? That would show no power. That would be not very exciting. Or does it open up 9, hang out, and close up 12 or 13? That would show appetite for risk. Anyway, by the way, today's Thursday. A lot of people are like, hey, Red Dog, why don't you do the 6:30 Club on Fridays? I'm like, well, I've been doing it Monday through Thursday for free since 2020. And now I have Red Dog Mindset, where I do the 20 to 520, which is a morning workout, and I do a lot of weekend stuff. And I'm willing to do the 6:30 Club on Fridays, an extra day, if I get 50 signups for the Red Dog Mindset. Red Dog Mindset is my company that I'm the founder of that tries to help you guys build your mental toughness so you can execute with the X's and O's. I do a workout in the morning in my sauna, the ice barrel, every single day. We streamline it, we cut it up, we put it on the privates. On the weekends, we do some work on the mental game, feeding the brain. And then there's a whole lot of other things that we do with that. So if you've been enjoying the 6:30 Club for free since 2020, great. Hopefully I've provided value and you're making money and you have your own routine and process. If you join Red Dog Mindset, great. If you would like Fridays to have the 6:30 Club, subscribe above on Twitter, $10 a month. Anyway, I will do it tomorrow anyway. I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt that tomorrow I will wake up usual time, do my routine, and come and do the 6:30 tomorrow to hopefully add some value, connect some dots. Sometimes there's so much to do, and sometimes less is more. The last 2.5 weeks, less is more. I think today, tomorrow is going to be really important on whether or not we have some kind of traction through December. If we fail today, chances are I don't know what the catalyst is going to be, that you better be very careful and better just be on your toes with levels. Anyway, yeah, big jobs data, data later. Kenny says loves the 20 at 520. Thanks for the routine, getting me up early and getting me thinking. So that's what I'm here for. Anyway, Amazon is usually good. That's true. So I think today you could put on some risk carefully if you've been flattish, which is probably what you should have been, which is the way I have. I've been tactical. So today we'll see if we have levels to buy against, and does it pay you to be in them and add to them through what historically is a good week next week. But it's got to start with today. So know what to look at, know what the keys are, turn your damn TV off. Don't listen to those guys who just throw things out there. You got to frame trades. You got to frame your risk. You got to know what you can handle, because it's been very tricky lately, and hopefully today starts a little bit better more tradable positive traction versus just choppy range trading. You can make money in choppy range trading, but you better be good. You better know your levels. You better not use no man's land. You better have a tier system. You better know there's a lot to know. That's why we get up. That's why we get prepared. That's why we think clearly. We don't go on tilt. If you go on tilt, you lose more money than you need to. I went on a little tilt yesterday, to be honest. I bought that first pull in, and I bought a little Google, and we just went red, and I was like, that wasn't fun. So it happens to the best of us. If it's been happening to you, that's cool. Let's just try and be green, make money today and tomorrow, go into the weekend with a positive head, and then maybe stack some days on Thanksgiving, and then eat some turkey and have some fun and play some flag football. Come on, have some gratitude. You never know when your number is going to be called, and if it's been tricky now, who cares? You've been doing this a long time. Tricky times lead to better times. Think clearly, think positively, add some days up, and move those feet. I'll see you guys a little bit later.